Cold Case, an Angelica Dale Mystery by P.K. Armstrong. Chapter 25. I tossed and turned a little bit as I had gone to bed early after catching up with Violet. I knew I needed to get into Moira's place, and Daniel was right. Removing the diary wasn't an option. A county judge would provide a slap and a warning if a PI was caught breaking and entering. A theft charge would see me stripped of my private investigator's license. The wind had picked up, and once again the branches beat a light tattoo on the roof and wall of my room. I always kept the room cold and wrapped up in heavy blankets during the winter months, and for a few hours I slept. I was up at 4 a.m., though, thinking, still trying to plan. Sandy had thoughtfully provided a mini guest tray in my room with a hot water kettle and tea, coffee, sugar, and lemon cookies. So I made coffee, grabbed cookies, and curled up in the chair in the corner. I watched the wind wafting the snow and saw flakes whirling about the yard. I sipped and pondered my problem. I needed to not only gain entry but also unfettered access to the diary's pages. I imagined Sasha wasn't prolific with her writings, maybe bursts of words whenever she was planning something big. If I was right, I could probably focus on the last several pages, and that would cut down the time I needed with the diary. I sat for an hour contemplating when my phone notified me that I received an email. It was from Terry Flack, and she had definitely delivered. I read through the documents she provided for another hour before I made my way to the guest bathroom. I could hear that Chuck and Sandy were already moving around, kind of early for a Saturday morning. I dressed and hurried down the stairs to my alcove and began organizing the evidence Terry provided. Terry pulled 6 months of bank statements for the Aspen Club, Derek Sampson, Sasha Johnson, and Stormie Gyles. I opened the bank statements for each party on one screen, and on the other I opened her summary for what she found. She used highlighters for each main entry. The Aspen Club finances held no surprises. Derek had done pretty well for several months, but then, gradually, the story began changing. Terry had marked where Derek had laid out tens of thousands of dollars on building and design. I reached for my notes on Stormie's interview and found where she admitted she and Derek's relationship was strained due to remodeling at the club. 3 weeks after the initial payment to the builders, there was a withdrawal from Stormie's personal account for $15,000. 3 days later, $6,000 was put back from the Aspen Club account. It happened again 3 months later to the tune of $25,000. But no corresponding deposit was made into Stormie's account. The skin on my neck began tightening with tension. Every time I confirmed a piece of my theory, Stormie looked more guilty. I looked at the next document. 80 days before the fire, a general liability policy was taken out on the Aspen Club. Per Terry, this was in addition to a $250,000 policy already in place. The second policy was in Derek's name only in the amount of $500,000 from a general liability insurance company. My eyes widened and my mouth dropped open at the name of the insurance company highlighted on the document. Pyre General Liability Insurance. That's it. I reviewed my notes with my interview with Dr. Carson from the medical examiner's office. He mentioned that in the ER, Sasha was still partially conscious and spoke. Sasha's last words, Pyre, could have been Pyre as in Pyre Group, the carrier of Aspen Club's second insurance policy. Maybe she knew she was dying and was lamenting the loss, for if their plan had worked, it would have meant freedom and a new start for the both of them. This was confirmed by another piece of the puzzle that Terry discovered, a check clearing the same time as the insurance premium check, written to an old popular airline, TWA. Terry had written next to the entry, confirmed 2 tickets to Mexico, one dated a week after the fire and the other 10 days later. I moved on to Derek and Sasha's bank statements. Of course, for me, the printout of the naughty pager messages was enough to imply the relationship, but the financials were always the better evidence. There were multiple charges on various weekends at a small, off-the-track B&B from the Aspen Club's business account. I lined up Stormie's bank statements, and the pattern was glaringly obvious. Sasha and Derek always used their credit cards in the same location on those weekends, and Stormie's card always showed her to be in Osgood. I had enough to confirm the relationship between Derek and Sasha. Terry had provided a copy of the Pyre decision that the claim was denied because the beneficiary was dead. He had no legal heirs, and the successor, Stormie, was criminally liable for the fire. Even though she was declared not guilty, the insurance company would have held out, saying that there was enough proof that she was culpable. Stormie would have had to go through another trial to get the 500,000. I wondered why she didn't push for it. Guilt? Something on Stormie's bank accounts caught my attention. Her statement showed all the normal living of a young, vibrant woman in her 30s: lunches, gym membership fees, groceries, clothing, and shoes. But for at least 2 months before the fire, I noticed regular charges to citizens of Osgood for animals. I remembered she had started volunteering, but I also remembered her discomfiture when she spoke about it. Her stuttering increased exponentially, and she had turned red in the face when speaking about her volunteer work with the organization. I opened my tablet and looked at their website and saw that the group met on Tuesdays and Saturdays. What is more interesting is that each meeting was followed by a meal at a cafe or restaurant that was clearly priced for two by 1980s standards. I stood up and looked out of my alcove window. The snow was coming down in the light flurries forecasted the night before. I watched it fall, breathing and coaxing myself to relax. I began slowly rubbing my neck, trying to manually release the knots that were forming. An affair? Is that what Stormie was hiding? It made sense. I know she told me that Derek had left her, which could have also been true. The police report of her interview indicated she had not been forthcoming about being at the club, but I think I knew. Stormie was there to confront Derek about the money and his affair. She could have even gone to tell him she was leaving him. If she was in love with someone else, it may have given her the impetus to leave. They fought, and she struck Derek in a rage, probably screaming at him she didn't care because she was having an affair too. My scenario put Stormie right back in the frame for the fire and the resulting deaths. But once again my instinct balked, and the burnt-out scene flashed in my mind. I just did not think her capable of setting the fire. I know it was a gamble, but I was counting on finding Sasha's diary to add the final piece.